I'm coming to you today on March 11th, 2020. And the reason I'm giving the date, which I have not given any other prior videos, I want to give context a little bit to what I'm going to talk about. And the reason I give the date is we are in the midst of the coronavirus conversation in our world. The World Health Organization declared the coronavirus to be a pandemic yesterday, and the President of the United States did an address to the nation last night about it, and everybody's talking about it. To be perfectly honest, I've been extremely reluctant to talk about it. Number one, I am not an expert in infectious disease. That is not my specialty. I'm a psychiatrist, and I cannot pretend to be an expert on this. Obviously, I have some medical background, more than others, and have been reading on it and educating myself on it. But at the same time, this is something that has been developing in front of our eyes, with many, many people genuinely trying to make good, wise decisions. And we, as a practice, are trying to do the same thing. We are trying to discern what is wisdom and how do we, at the same time, not give into fear. And as a result of all that, I have been reluctant to do a video on this. Partly, number one, because wanted to see what happened. Wasn't sure which direction this was going. Was this something that was overblown? Was this something that was just fear-mongering? Or was this a legitimate concern? And like a lot of people, I kind of land in the middle. There is a legitimate concern. The virus really is contagious. People really are getting sick. And people who are vulnerable medically are really struggling, and some are even passing away. So that's the reality. And what I'm grappling with personally for my own family, myself, my children, my parents, people who are elderly in my family, is what do we do with all this? How do we live in the midst of this? There's much fear, there's much trepidation, and one of the things that I've found fascinating is what people are truly actually fearful of. And again, I'm trying to do some of my own self-reflection to figure out, well, what are my fears? What are my concerns? Am I concerned about health? Am I concerned about getting sick myself? Am I concerned about the illness? Or am I concerned about other things? And one of the things that I've honed in on is, both for myself, my family, and for many other people that I've been having this conversation with over the last few weeks, is the nature of how we do life, what we value, what we find to be our source of comfort, our source of what is familiar, our source of what we do, and what gives life meaning, is being rocked. It's being challenged. And so when that happens, naturally, we respond in fear. We don't like that. We don't like change, and we certainly don't like the sources of our comfort, the sources of our joy, the sources of our pleasure to be challenged. And that's what I'm discovering about myself, is that, wow, staying home for 2 weeks, if I have to self-quarantine and just being at home, what will I do? What will that be like? Will we be able to get food? All those things. The nature of how we do life is being challenged. And as a result, we respond in fear. And so the challenge we all have is, where do we go with that? What is our foundation? What is our source of hope? What is our source of comfort in the middle of this moment? Where do we go? Do we run to buying and hoarding more food or more life essentials like toilet paper and hand sanitizer and paper towels or cleaning products? That gives us some sense of control, so we think. And then we realize we're not in control. And we've spoken about this before, the whole idea that we are not in control and we are desperate to be in control. And as a result of not being in control, we get anxious and we get fearful and we worry, and we can't look beyond our worry. We've got to go somewhere with this. Each of us has to go somewhere with this. And the reality is that, what is your background view of life? Your basic faith about life is being tested right now. It's being challenged. As a matter of fact, I would say myself, as a self-disclosure, I identify myself as a Christian. And I was thinking about, how does my faith in this moment impact this? Well, it impacts it tremendously. But I also find that a lot of times there's a disconnect between what I believe intellectually, that God is in control of this world, that nothing happens outside of his attention, nothing happens outside of his will, and his will is good and perfect. But then why am I fearful? Because I realize that there's a disconnect between my intellect and my heart. So this goes to my heart, goes to your heart, goes to, where do we genuinely get our comfort and our joy, our hope? Your worldview and your faith is where this is going to go. That's what's going to get tested here. And does your faith and your worldview stand up to this cultural moment, to this moment in our world when there is a real virus and a real threat, and the way we do life is being challenged? I sincerely hope for you and for me and my family, I pray for you, that you will recognize this. You will recognize that your heart a lot of times is deceptive, and your heart clings to worthless things for a source of hope and comfort, and they're not going to satisfy. And so that's something I'm grappling with myself, talking to my children about, and that we are trying to figure out together. And so part of doing this video is to have that conversation. Have a conversation about, what do we do? Hope that's helpful as a point of launch for us to discuss this in more videos. Thank you.